Family Guy, as its primal youth back in the early 2000s, is regarded as one of the world's best cartoons ever created by Fox and produced by Seth MacFarlane. Now, I'm perfectly aware that Family Guy's viewers have been gone down rather quickly, which I can understand considering each episode from the new season have been flat out boring, bad jokes, or just plain to piss you off. But we always have to remember what happened back in the early days of Family Guy. So of course, I spent the whole weekend watching nothing but Family Guy to pick out my favorite episodes in the entire series in general. And keep in mind, guys, this is also my own opinion. If you do not agree with them, I am sorry, but leave it down in the comments. What episode should have been on the list? I'm Surefire Bloom, and let's get into it. Peter Meets Death. Now, of course, there was no way I could not put this one on the list, considering how creative it was and it stood out between anyone in the entire series. But the more you progress into the episode, it proves more than just a comedy. It proves more into a hearted defect, saying how do the rules of death apply if you take it away from people. So it actually was pretty good, including with a few share of good jokes.
Ew, how did you do that?
Oh, well, let's just say when I was younger, I did some films I'm not particularly proud of. Well, that does it for me. Let's go, Peter.
What could I just say? Death is probably one of my favorite characters in Family Guy. Not only does he bring an outstanding performance when it comes to comedy, but also when it comes to seriousness in this whole episode. How he goes into quite detail how his job is so important, including how he doesn't like being the bad guy where he takes people's lives. This makes you think about Death himself as you start to think, does he even like his job at some points?
And stuff, but I don't think I could ever do what you do.
Why, you think you're better than me? I'm tired of always being the bad guy. What I do has to be done.
I don't think I can go through with it.
Peter, listen, without death, the world would be a terrible place. Imagine a world where Hitler was still alive.
Today on Hitler, we'll be talking with Hollywood hunk Christian Slater.
I recommend you guys actually watch this episode. It's probably the most funniest, so you won't regret it when you actually do turn the TV on to watch this. Let's move on.
Look, James, your last movie was killer at the box office. Your Q rating is through the roof. It's time we ditch the WB and concentrate on features.
Sir, I don't know who you are, but just because you're sitting across from me doesn't mean you can give me career advice.
Oh. Will you sign my ass?
You have a pen?
Peter and Brian go back to the future. This is probably one of my favorite episodes of all time, regarding because it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Not only that everything made sense, but the share of good jokes, including outstanding references to the actual movie, made my mind blown. And not to mention, this is not Seth MacFarlane's first time making a reference to the movies.
Hello?
What's that?
Nothing. It's a weather experiment.
Oh.
So, between the outstanding comedy, great performance by Brian at the very end, including amazing references to the classic science fiction movie of 1985. So I highly recommend you guys go check this episode out. It's probably one of the best ones in the whole series, including a fine reference to the movie. And let me tell you, you would not be bored when you do watch it, including I highly recommend you watch it with a friend. Stewie and Brian's road trip. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Stewie and Brian, but of course during the earlier seasons they were getting a bit annoying how they couldn't even stand each other. And I can see the writers thought the same thing, so it looks like they wanted to change it during this episode. And not to mention that Brian's actually completely relatable in this entire episode, going into the fact that he was always in shock when his mother let him go, making him more depressed and he became more of an alcoholic. And not to mention, this actually goes into real life, how relatable it feels, how this could happen to anybody, which makes it even more sad than it was before. And of course, this episode had very good amount of jokes.
No, you don't see the money till I see the stuff. Oh, for God's sake, there's only one way to put an end to this nuisance. He's wearing a wire! What? You son of a...
Including the way how Brian knew that his mother gave him away to have a better life. It goes to show that even the parents themselves who gives them up always feel guilty about it. It's just, life just goes on like that. So to think that Seth MacFarlane put so much clever and a beautiful detail what goes on into the real world makes this one of my favorite episodes.
Brian, your mama gave you up because she thought you'd have a better life if she let you go. Was she right, son? Do you have a good life?
Yeah, I really do. I have a great life.
And not to mention that this episode opened a door between Stewie and Brian's relationship of becoming best friends. This is actually one of my favorite episodes of all time, and I highly recommend you guys go check it out. You won't regret it. And not to mention, guys, it has one of the best songs in Family Guy. You can't lie.
We certainly do get around like a bunch
bunch of renegade pilgrims who were thrown out of Plymouth Colony. We're Rhode Island bound. Or like a group of college freshmen who were rejected by Harvard and forced to go to Brown. We're Rhode Island.